Is it just me, or does something feel heartbreakingly wrong with Hudson and Rex Season 8? Fans aren't just confused, they're shattered. The trailers look sleek, the case is still crackling with tension, Rex still noble and loyal as ever. But where is Charlie Hudson? Where is the steady, calming presence of John Reardon, the man we've come to trust for over 7 seasons? This isn't just a creative shift, it feels like a betrayal. And now, after months of painful silence, John Reardon himself has finally spoken. What he revealed has shaken the entire fandom to its core. When Season 8 of Hudson and Rex was announced, fans were thrilled. The show had become more than just another procedural. It was a comfort watch, a heartfelt portrayal of partnership, loyalty, and quiet heroism. But excitement quickly turned into confusion as the first trailers dropped. The pacing was there, Rex was there, but something vital was missing. Detective Charlie Hudson, the very soul of the show. And the silence from the production team made things worse. John Reardon had been the emotional anchor of the series since its very first episode. Calm, intelligent, and quietly empathetic, his portrayal of Hudson wasn't flashy, but it didn't need to be. It was real. And fans connected to that. They didn't just admire him, they trusted him. That trust was built across 7 consistent seasons, where Reardon and Diesel von Bergenwald, the dog who plays Rex, created a chemistry so genuine it transcended the screen. You weren't just watching an actor and a dog, you were witnessing a bond, a friendship that pulled you into every case, every heartbreak, every victory. So when Hudson barely appeared in the Season 8 marketing, if at all, viewers panicked. Something didn't add up. Where had he gone? Why wasn't he in the group photos? Why were the newer, younger cast members being pushed to the front while the heart of the show was silently pushed to the side? At first, the network remained tight-lipped. There were vague mentions of new directions, fresh dynamics, and surprising changes, but fans weren't fooled. They could sense it. The shift wasn't subtle, it was seismic. Rumors started flying across social media. Was Reardon stepping back? Was he forced out? Was this his choice? Or someone else's? The speculation hit a fever pitch when a promotional clip aired showing Rex, Canada's most loyal canine, working beside a new officer. Not Hudson. Not the man who'd been by his side through every trial, every chase, every moment of danger. No, it was someone new. And that clip said more than a press release ever could. In the blink of an eye, the show went from comfort viewing to controversy. Fans demanded answers. They flooded the official pages. Comment sections were filled with disbelief, anger, and heartbreak. They weren't just reacting to a plot change. They were mourning the potential loss of a character who had become a part of their lives. Then, something even more concerning happened. John Reardon went quiet. His social media, once filled with behind-the-scenes moments, lighthearted banter with the cast, and affection for Diesel, suddenly went dark on anything related to Season 8. No posts, no comments, no promotions, just silence. To fans, that silence spoke volumes. It felt like a farewell no one had the courage to say out loud. The kind of slow fade you never expect from a lead actor who was the foundation of your show. The kind of silence that doesn't just raise questions, it breaks hearts. Behind the scenes, theories started to multiply. Some believed there had been a creative disagreement. Others pointed to possible contractual disputes. A few even speculated about burnout or personal reasons. But none of it was confirmed. And without Reardon's voice in the conversation, everything was just speculation and pain. And then, finally, the silence broke. In a quiet but powerful interview, John Reardon addressed the rumors, and what he shared confirmed what many fans feared, but also revealed truths no one had seen coming. His words didn't just explain, they struck deep. Before we reveal what John actually said and the full truth behind his departure, we need to understand the choices that led to this moment. What signs did we miss? What decisions were made in boardrooms and writers' rooms that changed the course of the show forever? Because make no mistake, Season 8 isn't just a new chapter, it's a turning point. One that will decide whether Hudson and Rex continues as a shadow of its former self, or whether it will finally confront the choices that have driven its heart away. The unraveling didn't happen all at once. It was subtle, almost surgical, and maybe that's what made it worse. Fans didn't get a farewell. They didn't get a tribute, a final moment, or even a proper explanation. What they got instead was absence. An absence so loud, it echoed in every scene Hudson wasn't in. The first few episodes of Season 8 aired with slick production, new subplots, and fresh faces taking up more screen time than ever before. And while the pacing was intact and the crime-solving formula remained technically solid, something vital had been stripped away. The heartbeat was missing. Viewers quickly realized they weren't just watching a new season, they were watching a version of Hudson and Rex without its soul. From the moment the credits rolled, the reaction was swift and emotional. Social media turned into a firestorm of confusion and disbelief. Longtime fans, some who had been following the show since episode 1, felt blindsided. Some were angry, others were heartbroken. Many were simply stunned into silence. What hurt most wasn't just the lack of screen time for Detective Hudson, but the way his absence was handled. There was no grand goodbye, no transition, no clarity. It was as if the show wanted viewers to just move on, accept a new dynamic, and pretend the emotional investment they'd built with Hudson never existed. And for a show built around the themes of loyalty, partnership, and trust, this approach felt like a betrayal. Even more unsettling was how the show tried to fill the void. New characters were introduced with enthusiasm, often taking on leadership roles or emotional arcs that once belonged to Hudson. The bond between Rex and his new handler was presented as fresh and exciting, but to many fans it felt forced, manufactured, hollow, because no matter how talented the newcomers were or how well written the new cases might be, the one thing the writers couldn't recreate was history. The years of unspoken trust, subtle glances, shared struggles, and quiet victories between Hudson and Rex were earned, not scripted. And viewers knew it. Then came the press interviews. Showrunners and producers began making public appearances, answering carefully worded questions about the new direction. They spoke of evolving narratives, broadening perspectives, and keeping things dynamic. But none of those words addressed the real question echoing through the fan base. Where is John Reardon, and why was he pushed to the background of his own show? Some statements tried to soften the blow by suggesting Hudson's story had naturally come to a pause, or that the show was exploring new energies. But fans weren't buying it. The chemistry between Hudson and Rex wasn't something you could shelve or replace. It was the core of the show's identity. Even more telling was John Reardon's own behavior. While the show tried to keep things vague, Reardon's silence became the loudest message of all. He didn't attend press events, he didn't appear in cast photos, and most notably, his once vibrant social media presence was now eerily quiet when it came to Hudson and Rex. There were no posts promoting the new season, no heartfelt tributes to the crew or his co-stars, and not even a farewell message to fans. That kind of silence doesn't happen unless something serious happened behind the scenes. And just when the speculation seemed endless, when fans were exhausted from trying to read between the lines, an interview surfaced. Not flashy, not dramatic, but real, honest, and raw. John Reardon finally spoke. Sitting across from a quietly respectful interviewer, he opened up, not in anger, but with the calm, grounded energy fans had always loved him for. He didn't throw anyone under the bus. He didn't rant. Instead, he spoke like someone who had been carrying a weight for too long and was finally ready to let go. He began by acknowledging the fans directly. He said he'd seen the messages, the comments, the heartbreak, and it meant everything to him. Reardon explained that after 7 years of giving everything to the role of Charlie Hudson, the show had decided to go in a new direction, one that didn't align with the character he had spent years building. He admitted there were creative differences, changes in focus, and that while he respected the show's right to evolve, it was no longer the story he had signed up to tell. And perhaps most importantly, he revealed that his reduced role in Season 8 wasn't entirely his decision. It wasn't framed as a mutual agreement. It wasn't a retirement. It was, in his words, a shift I had to accept, even if it broke my heart. That single statement hit fans like a truck. A shift I had to accept, even if it broke my heart. Those words weren't just about an actor leaving a show. They were about someone who had poured years of his life into a role, only to be quietly edged out of the very world he helped create. And suddenly, everything made sense. The vague press statements, the silence on social media, the missing promo photos, the tension viewers felt but couldn't quite explain. This wasn't just a storyline change, it was a fracture. Reardon spoke with dignity. He praised the cast, especially Diesel, his beloved canine co-star. He recalled the challenges and beauty of building a bond with a dog on set, and how that connection was something he'd carry with him forever. But he didn't pretend everything was fine. He didn't sugarcoat it. And in doing so, he gave fans something the show had failed to: honesty. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't dramatic. But it was real. And for a show built on authenticity, it was exactly what the audience needed. As Reardon wrapped up the interview, he left one final message for fans. He said, "No matter what happens next, Charlie Hudson lives in every scene we filmed, in every bond we built, and in the hearts of everyone who believed in loyalty, in justice, and in a good man doing his best." That sentence, quiet, powerful, and deeply personal, felt like the true end of an era. But the question still lingers. Where does Hudson and Rex go from here? As the truth behind John Reardon's exit settled in, the fan base didn't just grieve, they mobilized. What had started as whispers turned into a full-blown uproar, forums flooded with emotional testimonies. Twitter threads outlined a detailed timeline of everything the show had done, or failed to do, in handling Reardon's departure. Hashtags like #JusticeForHudson, #BringBackReardon, and #HudsonandRex. Without Hudson began trending in multiple regions. But this wasn't about outrage alone. It was personal. This was about betrayal, about a network and production team choosing to sideline the very man whose performance gave the show its heart and spine. What made Hudson and Rex different from other police procedurals was never just the cases. It was the emotional undertone, the bond between a man and his dog, between trust and duty, between loss and resilience. And Charlie Hudson was the face of that balance. Replacing him, or worse, phasing him out without a proper goodbye, felt like more than a casting decision. It felt like a violation of everything the show had built its name on. Fans began demanding answers from the network. Petitions launched. Longtime viewers announced boycotts of Season 8. Some even began campaigns asking streaming platforms to carry only the first 7 seasons, the Hudson era. Comments flooded every new promotional post. "Where's Hudson? Why did you do this to John? You just lost your soul." For a show that thrived on audience loyalty, the silence from producers only deepened the divide. Behind the curtain, tension reportedly grew. While official sources stayed tight-lipped, leaks and unconfirmed reports began to surface. Some suggested that internal creative disagreements had escalated over time, particularly regarding the show's new direction. There were claims that the production wanted to modernize the tone, shift away from emotion-first storytelling to faster, more adrenaline-driven plots. A vision that Reardon, known for his understated, character-driven performance, simply didn't align with. Others hinted at budget decisions, citing that newer, lesser-known cast members came with lower salary demands, giving the network more flexibility. But those explanations, even if true, did little to cool the outrage. To fans, no excuse justified rewriting the DNA of a show they had supported for nearly a decade. And the impact showed fast. While the premiere of Season 8 opened strong, riding on curiosity and built-in loyalty, viewership dipped sharply after the first few episodes. Critic reviews started to reflect the shift. One reviewer wrote, "Hudson and Rex used to feel like a warm Canadian crime-solving hug. Now, it feels like a procedural with a dog in it." Another said, "The heart is missing, and everyone knows it." Even cast interviews began to feel strained. Newer actors tried to promote the season, but they couldn't avoid the elephant in the room. The legacy of John Reardon lingered over every conversation, every question, every scene. More heartbreaking was how Diesel, the real-life dog behind Rex, seemed caught in the middle. Loyal fans pointed out how his scenes, though still strong, lacked the emotional pull they once had. The natural chemistry between Rex and Hudson was irreplaceable. It wasn't just about hitting cues, it was about energy, trust, and unspoken dialogue that only time could create. Watching Rex now, next to a new face, felt like watching a best friend wait for someone who's never coming home. Then came an unexpected ripple. International broadcasters began asking questions. Hudson and Rex had aired in over 100 countries, gaining a global audience that adored the core pairing. Some regions reportedly delayed airing Season 8, requesting clarifications about the cast changes. Foreign media outlets picked up the story, running headlines like, "Where is Hudson? Canadian drama faces backlash over lead star's quiet exit." What had started as a domestic controversy was quickly becoming a global one. In response, some of the show's crew members began to speak, off the record, anonymously. A few hinted that Reardon had been put in an impossible position, that he had fought for more character-driven arcs, that he had pushed to preserve the bond between Hudson and Rex as the show's central theme. But ultimately, the creative shift had already been decided. He was given the option to step aside gracefully or be written out without notice. And that quiet, heartbreaking interview where Reardon said he had to accept a shift even if it broke his heart, it now felt even more devastating. Because it wasn't just artistic, it was strategic, and perhaps even political. As the fanbase continued to reel from the betrayal, some began revisiting older episodes, almost as a form of protest and comfort. They found solace in the early seasons, where Hudson's calm voice guided the team, where Rex's loyalty mirrored Hudson's quiet strength, and where every crime solved felt like a small win for empathy, not just justice. The nostalgia wasn't just about the characters, it was about what the show used to represent: stability, decency, and hope. Reardon's departure had exposed something deeper: how fragile the balance between storytelling and business can be. Hudson and Rex was never supposed to be about ratings alone. It thrived because it made people feel, and when it forgot that, it lost more than a lead actor. It lost its compass. Still, the biggest question remained. Was this truly the end for Charlie Hudson? Fans refused to believe it. They clung to hope. Maybe a surprise return mid-season? Maybe a cameo in the finale? Maybe even a spin-off? The silence from producers continued, but the noise from fans only grew louder. Because no matter how the show tried to move forward, one truth remained unshakable: Hudson wasn't just part of the show, he was the show. As the dust begins to settle around the controversy of Season 8, one thing is heartbreakingly clear: Hudson and Rex is no longer the same show fans fell in love with. The departure of John Reardon didn't just mark the end of a character arc, it marked the collapse of a dynamic that once defined the very heart of the series. There's no official goodbye, no emotional farewell episode, no dramatic final case. Charlie Hudson simply faded out of the spotlight while the show tried to move forward, hoping fans would adjust. But they haven't, and they won't. That's because Charlie Hudson wasn't just a detective on a screen. He was the kind of character we don't see much anymore: a quiet hero. A man who led with compassion instead of ego, who solved crimes not with fists or firepower, but with empathy, thoughtfulness, and resolve. And for 7 full seasons, John Reardon poured every ounce of his talent into that role. He wasn't showy, but he was magnetic, steady, familiar. The kind of presence that didn't shout, but still commanded every room he walked into. It's rare to find that kind of performance, rarer still to see it stripped away without ceremony. And then there was Rex, loyal, brilliant, protective, but more than anything, devoted to Hudson. Their partnership was never a gimmick. It was deeply emotional, a connection built on mutual respect, trust, and unspoken love. Rex wasn't just a prop to Hudson's detective work. He was his equal, his partner, his shadow. When the show chose to keep Rex but remove Hudson, it broke that sacred bond. And viewers felt it immediately. The decision to downplay Reardon's role and replace Hudson's presence has had consequences far beyond ratings. It fractured the foundation of the fan base. It exposed a rift between storytelling and strategy, between creative integrity and behind-the-scenes decision-making. And it reminded audiences everywhere that no matter how beloved a character is, no one is safe when studios prioritize fresh energy over emotional truth. Still, through all the heartbreak, something beautiful has emerged: legacy. Charlie Hudson's story may have ended without closure, but his impact is permanent. The character lives on, not because the show allowed it, but because the audience demands it. Fans are rewatching old episodes, sharing their favorite moments, posting emotional tributes and montages, writing open letters and fanfiction. Hudson may be gone from the screen, but he's more alive in the hearts of fans than ever before. And John Reardon? He may have been quietly pushed out, but he walks away with something the show can never take: respect, admiration, and the knowledge that his performance meant something to families, to dog lovers, to people who watched him solve cases with grace, fall quietly in love, and carry burdens that were never fully spoken. He made viewers feel seen. He gave people comfort. He created a space where kindness was strength and loyalty was never negotiable. That doesn't just disappear when the credits roll. Now, the future of Hudson and Rex remains uncertain. The show continues, technically, but fractured, divided. Fans tune in with hope, but they watch with caution. Some have left already, unwilling to support a version of the story that erased the man who made it great. Others remain, but only because of the possibility that someday, maybe, just maybe, Charlie Hudson could return. Even for one last case, one final scene, one proper goodbye. But if that never happens, then let this stand as his legacy. Charlie Hudson didn't need explosions or big speeches. He led by example, by heart. And thanks to John Reardon, he will always be remembered not just as a great character, but as the character who made Hudson and Rex worth watching. And so, to the producers who underestimated what he meant, you miscalculated. To the writers who tried to fill the space he left, you never really could. And to the fans who are still grieving, still fighting, still hoping, you're not wrong for feeling what you feel. Because in the end, it wasn't just about the cases. It was never just about the dog. It was always about the man who never stopped showing up. Charlie Hudson deserved better, and so did we.